Did you know that Laos was secretly entangled in the Vietnam War due to its strategic location and the presence of the Ho Chi Minh Trail? This Southeast Asian nation, despite its declared neutrality, found itself embroiled in a conflict that was anything but neutral. This was the Secret War, a covert operation conducted by the United States, a chapter of history that's often overlooked. The main stage was Vietnam, yes, but Laos was the backstage where a lot of the action happened. It was a strategic chessboard, a silent battleground where superpowers vied for control under the radar. So why Laos? What was so vital about this small, landlocked country? The answer lies in the Ho Chi Minh Trail, a lifeline for the North Vietnamese forces. Named after the North Vietnamese leader, this trail was a complex network of paths and routes, snaking its way through the dense jungles of Laos. The United States saw this trail as the Achilles heel of the North Vietnamese. If they could disrupt this supply line, they could potentially cripple the North's war effort, and hence, the Secret War. A war that was not declared, not recognized, but was as real as the bombs that fell and the lives that were lost. But the U.S. wasn't alone in its interest in Laos. The Pathet Lao, a communist group supported by North Vietnam, was also active in the area. They were up against the Royal Lao government, who had the backing of the United States. A covert war within a war, a silent echo of the larger conflict that was the Vietnam War. And so, despite its neutrality, Laos found itself entangled in a web of geopolitical strategies and secret operations, a silent battleground where the echoes of war were muffled by the dense jungles and the whispers of the Mekong River. Despite being a neutral country, Laos found itself in the midst of a covert war that was anything but secret. A war that would leave indelible scars on the nation and its people. A war that would forever change the course of Laotian history. Imagine living in the most heavily bombed country per capita in history. That was the reality for Laotians during the Vietnam War. A reality that saw Laos engulfed in a catastrophic bombing campaign. The United States, in a bid to disrupt the Ho Chi Minh Trail, a lifeline for the North Vietnamese forces, rained down over 2 million tons of bombs on the small country. From 1964 to 1973, the skies of Laos were filled not with birds but with falling explosives. The Ho Chi Minh Trail, the very veins of the North Vietnamese supply line, ran through Laos, making it a prime target for the U.S. forces. But it wasn't just the trail that was targeted. Communist forces within Laos also felt the destructive power of the U.S. bombing campaign. The war turned this peaceful, neutral country into a battleground, the reverberations of which can still be felt today. The relentless bombing campaign transformed Laos into a perilous war zone. The conflict in Laos was not just a simple two-sided affair, it was a complex civil war involving various factions and ethnic groups. The communist Pathet Lao, backed by North Vietnam, was one of the key players in this intricate web of conflict. Their goal was to establish a communist government in Laos, a vision that put them in direct opposition to the existing Royal Lao government. The Royal Lao government, supported by the United States, was fighting to maintain their hold on power and limit the spread of communism. This was not a simple case of one side against the other. The war was further complicated by the involvement of different ethnic groups, each with their own interests and alliances. Among these groups, the Hmong ethnic group played a particularly significant role. The Hmong, led by General Vang Pao, were staunch allies of the United States. They provided invaluable assistance to the CIA in their operations against the Pathet Lao and North Vietnamese forces. The Hmong fighters were renowned for their courage and resilience, often fighting in difficult and dangerous conditions. However, this alliance with the United States placed the Hmong in a precarious position. They faced severe reprisals from the Pathet Lao and their North Vietnamese allies. Many Hmong were forced to flee their homes and live as refugees, a situation that continues to affect the Hmong community today. As the war raged on, the lines of conflict became increasingly blurred. Alliances shifted, rivalries intensified, and the people of Laos were caught in the middle. The war was not just about the fight for political control, but also about ethnic identity, cultural survival, and the struggle for self-determination. In the end, the Pathet Lao emerged victorious, establishing a communist government in Laos. The Royal Lao government was disbanded, and the Hmong, once allies of the United States, were left to face the harsh realities of life under the new regime. The intricate web of alliances and rivalities added another layer of complexity to the conflict in Laos. War is never kind to civilians, and the conflict in Laos was no exception. As the skies of Laos filled with the thunderous roar of bomber engines, life on the ground became a perilous game of survival. The relentless bombing campaign, a grim testament to the strategic importance of Laos, turned peaceful villages into landscapes of destruction. Families, once leading lives of simplicity and tradition, found their homes reduced to rubble, their safety shattered. The human cost of this devastation was staggering. Countless Laotians were caught in the crossfire, their lives extinguished in an instant, their dreams buried under the weight of falling bombs. The survivors, forever scarred by the horrors of war, faced an uncertain future. Many were forced to abandon their homes, their lands, their entire lives to seek refuge in safer territories. This mass displacement of people, akin to a human tsunami, was a poignant reminder of war's cruel indifference to innocent lives. Yet the impact of the bombing campaign did not end with the cessation of hostilities. The specter of unexploded ordnance continues to haunt the Laotian landscape, posing a lethal threat to unsuspecting civilians even today. These silent, deadly remnants of a bygone conflict serve as chilling reminders of a war that may have ended on paper, but continues to claim victims in the most tragic of ways. The war left an indelible mark on the civilian population with repercussions that are still felt today. When the dust settled after the Vietnam War, the landscape of Laos had been irrevocably changed. The cessation of the Vietnam War in 1975 marked not just the end of a brutal conflict, but also the beginning of a new era for Laos. The Pathet Lao, backed by North Vietnam, emerged victorious, overthrowing the royal Lao government. This victory ushered in the establishment of a communist government, fundamentally altering the political fabric of Laos. The aftermath was fraught with challenges as the country grappled with the scars of a war that had torn through its heart. The physical destruction was immense, but the societal and political upheaval was even more profound. The Pathet Lao's victory led to a shift in power dynamics and introduced an ideological shift that still shapes Laos's political landscape today. But the end of the war did not mean the end of suffering. Unexploded ordnance, remnants of the intensive bombing campaigns, littered the countryside. These silent, deadly remnants of the conflict have claimed lives and maimed thousands over the years. To this day, they continue to pose a significant threat to the safety of the Laotian people, a chilling legacy of the secret war. The Hmong people, who had played a significant role in supporting the U.S. efforts, found themselves in a precarious position. With the change in government, they faced persecution, and many were forced to flee, adding to the refugee crisis that the war had already triggered. The war also had a lasting impact on the country's socio-economic fabric. With infrastructure destroyed and traditional livelihoods disrupted, poverty rates soared. The challenge of rebuilding a war-torn nation was immense, and the echoes of these struggles can still be felt today. But amidst the devastation, there were also stories of resilience and courage. The Laotian people, having endured a decade of conflict, set about rebuilding their lives and their country with determination. The legacy of the war is not just one of destruction, but also of resilience and the unyielding spirit of the Laotian people. The Vietnam War and the secret war within it left an indelible mark on Laos. It changed the country's political course, scarred its landscape, and imposed a heavy burden on its people. But it also forged a nation that, despite the odds, continues to persevere and progress. The shadow of the Vietnam War still looms over Laos, a poignant reminder of a conflict that forever altered the course of the country's history.